MSI's under $500 Modern 14 is a compelling budget laptop for day-to-day tasks, packing reasonable battery life, a good mix of ports, and proper build quality. When you're looking for a budget laptop, we define these as models under $500. You can't expect a magnesium-bodied slimline with all the latest mod cons. Instead, the aim is to compromise as little as possible. MSI's Modern 14 threads that needle, delivering a nice mix of price and features in our $449.99 test configuration. Sure, it includes a modest Intel Core i3 processor and just 128 GB of storage, but that's on par for this price range, and it's made up for with 8 GB of memory, a screen that won't offend the eye, and a nice, compact build. The component choices are reasonable, and we found little downside for the bucks, with its style, good port selection, and 8-hour battery life. Unless you prefer a much larger screen, it's hard to do much better between $400 and $500. It earns an Editor's Choice Award for this price tier. For a highly affordable laptop, the Modern 14 looks pretty classy. It's nothing out of the ordinary, but the overall style is nice, if simple. A charcoal metallic paint job covers the whole chassis, sparkling with just a little flare when it catches the light. The body is aluminum, though the paint job on our sample hides the fact. That's a nice change from the plastic chassis norm in this price range. The keys are also rimmed white and even feature white backlighting, which adds a bit more perkiness. The tight, compact design also helps the overall look. The Modern 14 measures 0.7 by 12.6 by 8.6 inches and weighs 2.8 pounds. That's about as thick as the Asus VivoBook 15 we reviewed recently, but about a pound lighter, due in part to the smaller screen size. That's in line with much more expensive ultra-portables. Speaking of the screen size, this 14-inch display features a full HD resolution. The screen is not a standout, but it's clear and bright, so there's no room for complaints. The IPS panel has good off-axis viewing angles, too, without much distortion or darkening when seen from an angle. This is more or less the screen you should expect in a laptop at this price, and perhaps a bit better than that. Take, for example, the VivoBook 15 just mentioned. Its display is subpar in quality. The basic level of clarity is wanting, and the color and picture quality degrade rapidly if you look at it from even a modest off-center angle. A satisfactory screen is by no means a given at this price, so kudos to the Modern 14 for that. Next up, the keyboard. It's a serviceable typing experience. The key presses feel a bit soft, but you do get some tactile feedback, so it's not totally mushy. And the layout is a thumbs up. Some compact laptops have keyboards with keys that look smushed together, or keys that feel small. Everything is roomy here, despite the 14-inch frame. There's little to say about the touchpad, but it isn't flimsy, and the material feels better than the textured finish used on many cheap laptop touchpads. Overall, it's a pretty pleasant laptop to use and carry around. It's easy to tuck under your arm and fit in a bag, and its lightweight won't drag you down. At the risk of repeating myself, these positives are especially easy to appreciate for the price, though much of the cut cost comes in the form of low-power components and not necessarily the physical design. Still, a good or even passable build. Overall, it's a pretty pleasant laptop to use and carry around. It's easy to tuck under your arm and fit in a bag, and its lightweight won't drag you down. At the risk of repeating myself, these positives are especially easy to appreciate for the price, though much of the cut cost comes in the form of low-power components and not necessarily the physical design. Still, a good or even passable build is hardly guaranteed in this range, so this competent, portable design gets our approval. Finally, the ports. The left side holds a USB Type-C port, an HDMI connection, and a microSD card slot. The right side is home to just 2 more USB 3.0 ports, but the total array of connections is more than enough for basic needs, and ports like USB-C are not always included on laptops in this price range. The parts that make this laptop tick are modest, which is to be expected. The goal here is a working everyday laptop for home and light office tasks, and to that end, the system packs an Intel Core i3-10110U processor, 8 GB of memory, and a 128 GB SSD. The processor is a humble 2-core, 4-thread chip that doesn't chew up much energy, but it should have enough pep for simple multitasking. That 128 GB of storage is definitely a bit restrictive, but for documents and a moderate number of photos and videos, it will do. However, that doesn't quite apply to this group of budget-friendly laptops. Integrated graphics can get by when paired with a good processor and plenty of RAM, but these laptops are not providing much of that support, leaving the weak chips to do a lot of lifting on their own. Other than the simplest games, don't expect to play much on these systems. In the case of the Modern 14, though it has a relatively recent 10th generation Intel processor, that Core i3 didn't kick things up to the latest version of Intel's integrated graphics, Iris, instead relying on Intel's older UHD graphics solution. MSI does have pricier configurations of the Modern 14 that have upticked graphics, but if gaming what you are after, basic gaming laptops start at just a few $100 more and will be much more powerful. After fully recharging the laptop, we set up the machine in power save mode where available and make a few other battery conserving tweaks in preparation for our unplugged video rundown test. In this test, we loop a video, a locally stored 720p file of the same tiers of steel short we use in our handbrake test, with screen brightness set at 50% and volume at 100% until the system quits. The Modern 14's battery life is one of its high points, even if it doesn't break with the pack. Nearly 9 hours of runtime lets you use the laptop away from the charger without keeping a constant eye on the meter, and it gives you some confidence to travel with the system. For a laptop this portable, that is a key concern. So even if some tasks use up more juice than others, you will get at least several hours of off-plug productivity out of this machine, and likely as much as a full workday. The MSI Modern 14th may not do anything too special, but delivering some bright spots and avoiding any major compromises is enough to stand out at under $500. You can find more affordable alternatives if keeping it base budget is your main criterion, but you can expect compromises galore. In contrast, it's tough to find much to complain about with the Modern 14 for the money. It's not the fastest machine relative to mainstream laptops in the $600 to $1,000 range, but it delivers the goods within its price tier, doing what is asked of it. If you're looking for an affordable everyday laptop that leans on the side of portability, reasonable connectivity, and overall comfort, the MSI Modern 14 balances all those items better than most budget machines we've seen. Items better than most budget